What's up, guys? It's your girl Jenny, and this is episode 2 of How to Read Music, where we are going to go over rhythm and everything that has to do with timing in music. So the first thing that has to do with timing is your beat. A beat is a steady pulse that occurs consistently throughout your music. So when you turn on your metronome and your metronome is beating that steady pulse, that's a beat. The next thing is tempo. Tempo is how often your beat occurs. So most of the time, one beat is going to be represented by a quarter note, which is a note head that's colored in with a stem. A quarter note usually gets one beat. So if you see at the top of your music, quarter note equals 80, that means that the tempo of your music is 80 beats per minute. You can also get other tempo markings for a different amount of beats per minute, like this, 120 beats per minute. That's much faster. Okay, so that's tempo and tempo markings. So most of the time, your quarter note is going to get the beat, like this. So you would count this out as each beat, you say ta, right? So ta, 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 ta. That's how you would count out 4 quarter notes. Ta, 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 ta. 4 beats, right? You also have notes that last over the span of multiple beats. So you also have a half note. And a half note, which is a note head that is not colored in with a stem. And a half note is held over the duration of 2 beats. So when you count out 2 half notes, you would say ta, ta, right? Each one gets 2 beats. And then you have a whole note. And a whole note, which is a note head that is not colored in with no stems, no flags. A whole note is held out over the duration of 4 beats. So you'd count out a whole note like ta, okay? You also have an 8th note, which is a note head that is colored in with a stem and a flag. It can also be beamed together to another 8th note. So if you see a flag or a beam, one beam, then that's an 8th note. And they can be beamed together in 2s or 4s or more, but most of the time you're going to see them beamed together in groups of 2 or groups of 4, or you might see a single 8th note by itself with just a flag. All right? And the way that you would count out a whole bunch of 8th notes is T, 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 T. Okay? So there are 8 of these 8th notes within this measure. There are 4 quarter notes in this measure. There are 2 half notes in this measure, and there's 1 whole note in this measure. A measure, by the way, is a subdivision of music. It is a small segment of your music that is divided by bar lines. So between 2 bar lines is a measure, or at the beginning of your music, between your clef and your bar line, that's your very first measure. At the very end of your music, you will see a double bar line, and that signifies that it is the end of a section of your music or that it is the end of a piece or a movement, right? So all of these measures that I've shown you so far, they all equal 4 beats. So you could have a measure that has 8 eighth notes and that equals 4 beats, or 4 quarter notes equals 4 beats, 2 half notes equals 4 beats, and 1 whole note equals 4 beats, okay? So are we following? And those are all the most common durations of notes. Slightly less commonly, but still very commonly, you will see 16th notes. And as you can see, there are 16 16th notes within this measure, and this measure specifically holds 4 beats, right? That's how we've divided up all of the first measures. So 16th notes you would count like this. Ticky, 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 right? And when you see a 16th note, it might be all by itself, and it's a note head that is colored in with a stem and 2 flags, or you might see a group of 4 16th notes where you have note heads that are colored in that are beamed together with 2 beams, okay? So 2 beams or 2 flags on your 16th note. That is what lets you know that it is a 16th note. All right, and they can be grouped together in groups of 4 or 8 or 16. Those are common groupings of 16th notes. We're not going to read a whole bunch of those. For the most part, we're just going to see whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, and eighth notes. Those are the most common, but you will see some 16th notes. You also have rests, which represent a duration of beats. But a rest means that you are going to be silent for the duration of those beats. So my first 2 types of rests are a whole rest and a half rest. So a whole rest equals the same amount of time as a whole note. And it looks like a little rectangle that is on the bottom of usually the middle line of your music, but it could be on a higher line or a lower line. Anyway, it's a rectangle that is below the line. Here's a good way to think about it. If you have a whole rest, it looks a little bit like a hat. And this hat, it looks like a man has taken off his hat because it's upside down. So if a man takes off his hat, he is going to stay for a long time. If a man keeps his hat on, then he is going to stay for a shorter amount of time, okay? So your 2 types of hat rests are the whole rests and the half rests. And a whole rest is the longer one. It takes up 4 beats. And a half rest is the shorter one, and it only takes up 2 beats. So if you see a whole rest, you're going to be silent for the equivalent of 4 beats in this example. If you see 2 half rests, then you're going to be silent for 2 beats plus 2 beats, right? Because each half rest is going to get 2 beats, just like a half note gets 2 beats, right? Same thing with a quarter rest. A quarter rest is silence for 1 beat. So in this example, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4. So in this measure, you would be silent for 4 beats. You can see where I'm going with this. So this is what an 8th rest looks like. And that's a half plus 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 a half beat of rest. So in this example, you're resting for 4 beats. And then 16th rest, same thing. This is 4 beats of rest, all shown to you in 16th notes. So let me know if you guys have any questions on all of that. Now, at the beginning of your music, after your clef, you are likely to see a time signature. A time signature is going to tell you how many beats there will be between each measure of your music. So in this example, there are going to be 3 beats in each measure. And the bottom number tells you what type of note gets the beat. So right here you have a 4, and that is telling you that a quarter note gets the beat in 3/4 time. So this time signature represents 3/4 time. There are 3 beats per measure, and the quarter note gets the beat. So this is how I would count out these measures in 3/4 time. Ta, 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 ta. Right? I was silent for those 3 beats of rest. Okay? You also have 4/4 time, where there are 4 quarter notes per measure, and the quarter note gets the beat, right? And the way that you would count out these measures in 4/4 time would be like this. Ta, 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 ta. Right? 4 beats of rest in the last measure, okay? You also have time signatures that look like this, where in this example, a different kind of note would get the beat. So you have 2 beats per measure, and you have a half note getting your beat, right? The 2 represents a half note. And you might get a different kind of tempo marking where instead of a quarter note equaling your tempo, you have your half note equaling your tempo, right? And that would mean that your half note is going to occur 100 times per minute. And so you have 100 beats per minute. That's your tempo. So in this example, my half note gets the beat. So a beat is going to sound like ta, 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 right? So this is how I would count out these measures of 2/2 time, okay? Ta, 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 ta. Okay, 1 measure of silence there. You might also see a time signature that looks like this. It looks different than your normal time signature where you have a value on top and a value on bottom. In this type of a time signature, it represents to you, this one is common time. So it's a C for common time. And common time is exactly the same time signature as 4/4 time, okay? 4/4 time is common time. So you count it the exact same way, right? Ta, 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 ta. Okay? And cut time is exactly the same as 2/2 time. So cut time is like common time cut in half, sort of. It's gonna feel faster. Ta, 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 ta. See, that felt a lot faster than counting essentially the same thing in common time, right? Okay. So those are all of your common terms having to do with rhythm and timing. All right, so now we're going to do some practice where we can count out some rhythms, and this is what counting rhythms is going to look like in real life, okay? All right, here is another book that I have that is called Sing at First Sight, and it has a lot of good exercises in it for these purposes. So right here we have an exercise that's in 4/4 time. And I know that in my time signature that the top number represents how many beats there are per measure, and the bottom number represents what type of note gets the beat. So this time signature is telling me that the quarter note gets the beat, and there's going to be 4 quarter notes or 4 beats per measure. I also know that the way that I count out a quarter note or 1 beat is ta, 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 ta. And the way that I count out rest is by being silent for every beat that is indicated by a rest. So that would sound like this. All right. So here's exercise 1 here in 4/4 time, and we are going to count this out. Let me go ahead and turn a metronome on. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, 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 ta. All right. And then exercise 2, also in 4/4 time. So let's go ahead and do that one as well. 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, 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 ta. Okay? Now let's look at the second page here, or page 11, where it's combining reading rhythm and the notes at the same time. So we'll go ahead and count out the rhythms first for this exercise. So let's just go over what we see in this exercise. So we're in 4/4 time, which means that there are 4 beats per measure and the quarter note gets the beat. And I also see that there are no sharps or flats in the key signature, which is a special rule that means that C is do. And I know that the bottom line is E because every good boy does fine, and below E is D, and below D is C. So I know that do is the ledger line below the staff, and I see that my starting note is on the ledger line below the staff, so I know that my starting note is do. And this exercise is only going to encompass 2 notes of the scale. So I would encourage you to make the leap. We're not going to write in solfege in this example. And let's go ahead and count the rhythms first on ta, 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 and then we can add in the solfege after that, okay? 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, 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 ta. Okay? And since I know that C is do, I can go ahead and play my do. Or you can just start in a place that's comfortable in your voice, but I'm just gonna go ahead and play the note C on the piano to give us our starting note. Do, do. My digital piano's being silly. Do, okay. 1, 2, ready, go. Do, 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 re, 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 re. Do, do, re, re, do, re, do. Re, 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 do, 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 do. Re, re, do, 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 re, do. All right. So here's the tendency skills pack that we were looking at before. And we are going to count the rhythms in this packet before we sing the exercise. So in exercise 2 here, I see a treble clef, I see a key signature, and I see a time signature. In my time signature, I see that there is a 4 on top and a 4 on bottom, which tells me that there are going to be 4 beats per measure, and the quarter note is going to get the beat, okay? So I'm going to write in above my music how you would count out these rhythms, okay? And they're all going to be very achievable, okay? All right, so now I can turn on my metronome. And I have my metronome set to 80 beats per minute because that is a recommended tempo for sight reading music. So you want to sight read your music a little bit slower than the actual tempo of your piece. I haven't seen any tempo markings in this packet so far, so I'm going to take the liberty to decide that we're doing this at sight reading tempo, which is 60 to 80 BPM, okay, or beats per minute. One, two, ready, go. Ta, 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 ta. Okay? Now we can look at what else is going on in this exercise. So in this exercise, I see that there are 2 flats in the key signature. And if I have flats, I know that the last flat is always fa. And below fa is mi. And below mi is re. And below re is do. Okay? So in this exercise, I know that the middle line is going to be do. The middle line of the treble clef. And I know that every good boy does fine. So I know that B is do, except that in the key signature, there is a flat on all B's. So B flat is going to be do. It's a half step lower than B. And I also know that every good boy does fine, and below E is D, and below D is C, and below C is B, or B flat in this exercise. So I know that my starting note is also do. And I already counted out the rhythms for this exercise, so now we are ready to sight read on solfege. Do. 1, 2, ready, go. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Do, sol, fa, mi, re, do. All right. Now I want to squeeze in some eighth notes really quick into this practice section. Oopsie. So I want to go ahead and do exercise 2 on this second page of the tendency skills packet. And on exercise 2, I see that there is a time signature for 4/4 time, meaning that there's going to be 4 beats per measure, and the quarter note gets the beat. Quarter note, right? So I can go ahead and I can write in above my music how you would count that out, okay? So now I've written in my rhythms, and now I can read the rhythms in this exercise, okay? 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, ti, ti, ta, 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 ti, ti, ta, 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 ta. Now I can look at what key signature I'm in. So I see 1 flat in the key signature, and I know that the last flat is always fa. And below fa is mi, below mi is re, below re is do. So I know that the first space is do, and because face rhymes with space, I know that F is the first space. Therefore, F is do, and we're in the key of F, okay? Now, there are some spots where the solfege is not filled in, but it's just stepwise movement. So just think about what solfege syllable is right beneath fa, and you would know that it's mi. So these ones, it's just making the mental leap just a little bit. So go ahead and try your hand at that. The solfege is written in for most of it, so I think you're going to do good. All right, so we'll turn on our metronome. Plunk our F, do, do, do. 1, 2, ready, go. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. All right, so there we've just added a couple of eighth notes in there. So that's everything for this video, and that was how to read rhythms and how to combine that with sight singing on solfege. So come back next time and we'll do some more practice and more information to come. Thanks so much. Bye.